about real strength. And we need to recognize that real strength comes, of course, from the inside. So, Father, over the next few moments, thank you for what we're going to be talking about today and the blessing of real strength. And we thank you for all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, the Apostle Paul said that he could do all things through Christ who strengthens him. What Paul was basically saying is the real strength that we have comes from the inside out. And it's not something that you can automatically manufacture. Unfortunately, real strength comes from real life situations. Let me share a little bit of what went on in my life yesterday. My wife and I went to the city. And when we got back, we had picked up some items for my son. So, of course, I went out to his farm and delivered those things. And then I got to a chance to play a favorite video game for a couple of hours. Well, when I drove back to town, just as I pulled into town, all of a sudden I began to hear the back wheel of my winter car begin to squeak. And every time I drove it, it started getting worse. So I thought, it's a beautiful day out there. I think that I'll go and see if my summer vehicles are in any shape to drive. So the first thing I did was, of course, I went to start my wife's car and it was dead. So the first thing I had to do was put a battery charger on my wife's car. And so I went inside for a little while and then went back out after I thought, okay, it's sufficient time to be able to charge the battery. So I went out and sure enough, the car started. I thought, oh, great. So that's wonderful. Now, what I need to do is I need to go over to my daughter's house because my daughter is where I had kept my summer vehicles all during the winter season. Thankfully, yesterday was a pretty nice day. So the first thing I thought, well, you know what? I should see if my motorcycle is going to start. Well, I knew it wasn't going to start. So I went and took the battery charger and I put the battery charger on my motorcycle and I thought, okay, let's wait for a little bit. So I went inside my daughter's house and basically she has some cats and a dog, which I took care of, because my daughter's away, and went back out and went to start the motorcycle and went click, 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 click. Then all of a sudden, vroom. Well, my motorcycle took right off. I thought, yeah, that's great. Hey, things are going all right for me right now. So then I went and thought, okay, let's try the car. So I got in my car and tried to start it and it wouldn't start. It was dead. So I thought, okay, what we'll do then is we'll put the battery charger on the car. So I took the battery charger from the motorcycle, put it onto the car, and, basically discovered that I also had, get this, I had a tire that was low on the car. And I'm thinking, ugh, okay, so I got to battery charge the car and I've also got to pump up the tire. So went over to my house, picked up all the apparatus to be able to pump up the tire. And the thing I'm learning here is that every situation is fluid. You've got to be ready and you know to be able to do certain things. And so yesterday, of course, I was able to get the tire pumped up. Then I went to start the car and it started right away. And I thought, okay, so 2 out of 2, well, actually, 3 out of 3, because my wife's car I got going, my motorcycle got going, and of course, I got my car going. So we're doing all right. Well, then I thought, well, we better get the truck started. So I go into the Quonset where the truck is, and I thought, well, let's check the truck out. Well, sure enough, because the truck has been sitting all winter, it wouldn't start. So then I had to put the battery charger on the truck. Went and tried a little bit later, and the truck still wouldn't start. So I'm leaving the battery charger on the car or the truck all night, and we'll see what happens this morning. This is kind of one of those situations where something that you happened yesterday has a carryover in today. And that happens from time to time. Something that you faced yesterday will have a carryover effect on, of course, today. And the what you need to recognize is when you find yourself in a troubled situation or a situation that is going to, of course, challenge you, because I mean, real life is a challenge from time to time. Well, there is always a carryover sometimes in the next day. And this was, of course, one of those things that will happen. So that was all right. Now, this is where the funny part starts. My wife last night, we have two Labrador retrievers and one British bulldog. They're pretty big boys. And a couple of years ago, we put a special metal gate from our kitchen into our dining room to keep the Labrador and also as well the two Labradors in, of course, the kitchen. And the British Bulldog has, for most part, he has been, of course, in the front room, except about maybe 7 or 8 months ago, when he was still a puppy, he decided that he wanted to go through that gate, and so he bent the gate. And what happened was this one particular bar in the gate was rather brittle. Well, last night my wife turned on the washing machine. And when the washing machine is on, the Labrador, which we call Baxter, he's a big boy. He's like about 100 pounds, and he's about 32 inches at the shoulder. So he's a big boy. And he got frightened, and he basically went through the metal gate. He broke one of the rungs of the metal gate. Well, when I went, of course, to, take the dogs out, I noticed that it was bent. So I thought, well, okay, I'll just put it back into place. As I was putting it back into place, the rung on the gate broke. So all of a sudden, I have a space in that particular gate where a dog can go through. Well, we don't want the dog to go through. I mean, remember that song, "Who Let the Dogs Out?" Woof, woof, woof. Well, that's our situation. So I'm thinking, okay, what are we going to do? Well, I went outside and I thought, well, I know what I'll do. I'll find a piece of wood and attach it to to that area, and I'll screw it. And I couldn't find a piece of wood the right size. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what are we going to do? My wife and I were walking around thinking, what can we place on that gate that will keep the dogs, in the area, because we had to order a new gate, and the new gate isn't coming until Tuesday. So on Tuesday, guess what I have to do? I have to install a new gate in our house to keep the Labradors and the Bulldog, separated. so so we had this ironing board. Okay. And so what I did was I strapped the ironing board onto the gate, and basically it is acting as a barrier. It looks absolutely ridiculous, but it's working. That's what is basically happening. So you find out that life can be very fluid, and you need to respond sometimes instantaneously, because the simple fact is that if that barrier wasn't there, our dogs would be all over the house. And when you have three large dogs wandering through the house, it can be very interesting. And of course, one of them is still a puppy, so he likes to chew things, and you never know what you're going to chew. In fact, my wife and I were giggling one day because well, it wasn't a giggle at the time, but he chewed up the remote for our TV. So we had to, find and buy a new remote for our TV. So you never know what life's going to throw at you. So basically what I'm saying today is real strength is feeling everything and choosing peace anyway. In all this chaos that was going on yesterday and a little bit today, you need to choose to have peace. And that was the wonderful thing. When I went to bed last night, I knew that this wild apparatus that I had put into place, which was an ironing board, because I had tested it out last night to make sure that everything worked. Well, it worked perfectly fine last night. Now, it does mean that I'm going to have that ironing board up for the next couple of days because we don't want the dogs to, get through the rest of the house. Because when you have three large dogs, they can and often do make a mess and get into things. I mean, animals are animals. If you have animals, you know what I'm talking about. You never know what they're going to do next, especially when you have young animals. So we have a young cat and a young dog, and so you never know what they're going to do. And so what you do is you choose peace anyway. And also as well, you don't have absence of emotion. I remember when I walked up to the gate and looked and said, "Oh no." I was very emotional about it. But I also knew that it was an instantaneous problem that needed to be solved. It was the same situation with the cars. I knew that I needed to get one of those cars running. I knew that I, had to take my winter car and I had to put it away. And basically, what I did was I chose to get my summer car going so that I could defer the actual fixing of the winter car until the fall season. Because basically, I'm going to have to put new brake pads in that automobile because you can't drive a car with bad brakes. It's just that simple. It makes an awful lot of noise, and also as well, you have to replace the brakes. So what I chose to do was I said, okay, I'll put my summer car in and get it running, and then I'll put my winter car away, and in the fall I will put some new brakes in because putting new brakes in isn't cheap. So yes, I deferred the problem. I totally agree on that one. So it's not having an absence of emotion, but it is meeting whatever it is head on. I use this illustration simply because of the fact this is what happened to me yesterday. Now, I don't have a lot of days like this, but every once in a while, you have one of those days where everything seems to be mounting. Now, it didn't start off that way, but it certainly ended up that way, especially when that gate was broken and I knew that I had to fix it right away. Now, I jerry rigged something and it's not a permanent solution, but on Tuesday, I have to make it a permanent solution. That means that I have to take out the old gate and put a brand new metal gate in to keep my dogs in, or else they'll get out. And then, of course, who let the dogs out? Woof, woof. That was a bad one. Anyway, it's not the absence of emotion. I was very emotional yesterday about every situation, but basically, I knew I had to meet each situation head on and figure out how to, make the situation works. So it's not about performance or not caring. It's also not creating a wall so high that nothing gets in and nothing gets out. My wife, for example, yesterday, her assignment was she has a little side hustle. And that side hustle is, of course, got to be reported to the CRA or the IRS if you are in the United States. The CRA is the Revenue Service for Canada. And every year you have to, of course, report your income to these people. Now, my wife, because she has a side hustle, has to, of course, do that. And so yesterday, that was her job. And the day before, she was cleaning out her phone because her phone was slowing down. And she discovered that, and this is a very important thing, when your phone is slowing down, the first thing you need to do is check out, of course, your emails. My wife had not checked out her emails for a long time. She had 50,000 emails that she had to go through and get rid of. She had photos that she had to get rid of. She had, on her phone many, many games that she never put on because she gives her phone to our grandkids and lets them use it. And when they, use it, some of them, post or put games on it. So she had to go through her phone in the last couple of days, and then she had to do her, side hustle situation. She got it all done, but she said to me, "Man, I have been busy with my phone and with my business." Well, that's the kind of situation that she found herself in the last couple of days. She was very emotional as well dealing with that. And I thought, honey, you handled it absolutely brilliantly. Those are the situations of life. And, in that situation, she was also as well taking care of our grandchildren because we had to take care of our grandchildren a couple of days as well. We have been exceptionally busy in the last couple of days. So, we could have been emotional. We could have built walls where nothing gets in and nothing gets out. But you know what? Real strength is feeling the emotions that you and I face every day. Now, like I said, there are days where things go very smoothly, where everything is running well. And there are days where things don't run so well. But real strength is, of course, feeling all the emotions and the disappointment, but still choosing to love, still choosing to interact with other people, still choosing to, be the best version of yourself. When each one of these situations happen, I giggled. That's right. I giggled. I said, well, isn't this interesting? When things went right and I had those little victories, yay! And when things didn't go right, well, I just knew that I had to, face the problem straight on. There are some things that you can defer, which I had done with my summer car or my winter car, but there are some things that you can't defer. There are some things that you have to meet head on, like the gate, where I had to figure out how to make the gate work. And fortunately, we were able to use a ironing board. Not the best solution, but it's a temporary jerry rig. Either way, you meet everything head on. And you also, as well, choose to walk in love, to walk in peace, to meet each situation with a smile on your face. Because the simple fact is, it's easy to get upset. It's easy to allow the emotions to take over. It's easy to, allow the chaos and the crisis and the urgency of the situation to overwhelm you. I've seen that where people are so overwhelmed that they literally almost shut down. And it's important that when everything else is happening around you and you feel like losing your head, that you don't. I've talked about practicing the pause. The practicing of the pause is simply this, that you take a moment, you breathe, and then you say, okay, now I have to rectify the situation. I remember when I walked up and saw that broken gate, I'm going, ugh. That's my reaction. But then I stopped and said, okay, I can get angry at the dogs, but the situation was my wife was doing some laundry, and my one Labrador is afraid of the washing machine. That's right. We have a Labrador that's 100 pounds, and he's afraid of the washing machine. And the washing machine was going, and he decided, I can't go through the back door, so I'll go through the gate. And he went through the gate, basically, is what he did. And my wife saw him go through the gate. And so basically, I had to fix the problem. And I went, oh, that Labrador. But then my wife explained to me what was going on. I'm going, yep, that's what happens. So anyway, we jerry rigged it, got it all figured out. And this morning when I went to go to get my ginger ale for before I started this broadcast, guess what? I had to figure out how to get into the kitchen. Anyway, it's working. It's working. And so basically, you choose deliberately to have peace and walk in love and smile about the situation, because basically you can get mad. It's easy to be critic. It's easy to be bitter. It's easy to, feel the full emotions and of course explode and also bring them out. Or you can choose to walk in peace. You can choose to pause. You can choose to face the situation head on. It doesn't mean that you don't feel the emotion. You feel the emotion. But you know what? You choose to stay in peace. You choose to say, okay, this situation needs to have a solution. And then you have to figure out the solution, whatever it may be. It may be a small thing, it may be something that is quite a bit larger. Human relationships are incredibly complicated, and people often say things and do things that make you go, why did you do that? And it's very easy to lose yourself in the moment. And I guarantee that if you act negatively, you're going to feel bad about it, unless, of course, you're a narcissist or a manipulator or a critic and have a tendency to head to the negative side. But if you are a positive person, you're always going to feel bad about, of course, how we reacted. Now, I'm not saying that you react right every time, but when you choose to step back for just a moment, examine the situation, you're going to be able to find a solution. You're going to be able to think it through when you practice a pause. And you choose quietly, deliberately peace over chaos every single time. You need to do that. The reason you need to do that is because you have to live with yourself. Now, I can't guarantee how that's going to happen. Each and every single one of us has a different process when it comes to how we get to that place of peace, how we walk in the pause. But I think James puts it very succinctly. He says, be slow to speak. He says, be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. So, what James is basically saying there is this: first of all, choose right now in that moment to be slow, to be quick to hear, quick to assess a situation. And that's the beautiful thing about, of course, our brain. Our brain can very quickly assess situations and often can come up with a solution fairly quickly. Let me explain for just a moment. A couple of summers ago, I decided to go for a trip to Banff National Park. And I decided that time that I was going to take my motorcycle. Well, on that trip from the city of Calgary into Banff, because the city of Calgary is 45 miles to the east, and then Banff, of course, is on a major 4-lane highway. So as I was driving along, I was going in the fast lane. Well, as I was driving along, riding along, I should say, this lady decided to pull out, and she came into my lane. Well, it forced me to slow down and also as well pull off to the side. Fortunately, there was a shoulder. And it wasn't until she looked back and she saw me, and it was a momentary decision. Now, of course, I have been riding for a number of decades. So I am an experienced motorcycle rider, and I know that anything can happen when you ride a motorcycle. And often because motorcycles are not like semis or trucks or major vehicles, many times people don't see you because of their blind spot. And she actually said to me, I am sorry. And I just went, that's okay. It happens. Well, on that same trip, I made the same mistake as I pulled out, just as I was pulling out, a car pulled by me. I very quickly went back into my lane. Experience and also quick assessment of the situation saved my life. Well, the simple fact is, you and I, in a very quick moment, we can assess a situation and we can do a very quick, reaction to the situation. Of course, experience comes in to that situation as well. If you haven't experienced something, you are going to react. Sometimes you're going to react good, sometimes you're going to react bad. But experience will allow you to be able, when the next situation comes up, you say, okay, I've been here before, I've got the t-shirt, and I know how to handle this situation. And of course, being what I faced yesterday, of course, I've had lots of experience with dead batteries. I've had lots of experience with, of course, vehicles doing what vehicles doing, and tires being down. So I knew exactly what to do. And I had to face each situation head on because the simple fact is that I needed certain things to happen. And fortunately, I knew exactly what to do. I've had many times over the years flat tires. I've had many times over the years dead batteries. So I knew what to do. And because of the experience, I was able to meet each situation on. But then last night, I've never had a situation where I had to fix a metal gate. So I had to improvise. It took a few minutes to figure it out, but we did, of course, improvise. And the solution, though it's only temporary, will, of course, and it did work. And so when the new gate comes in, I've already learned how to put in the gate. I'll have no problem putting in the new gate and making it work. Experience is a great teacher, but also as well, resilience and also as well, ingenuity and creativity is a wonderful way to meet each and every experience head on. You and I, we can figure out. That is one of the great gifts that God gives us. He gives us this wonderful ability to be able to improvise and be able to think through solutions. And if we're wise, we meet each situation on with a smile and also with a bit of a humor as well. I've had some tough situations, but when I look back over time, I begin to see the humor in the situation. I mean, I thought to myself last night, I can just imagine that Labrador as the spin cycle was going on the washer, how he must have went woo and tried to go through the gate. That must have been quite a funny situation. For me, having to fix the gate and jerry rig the gate, that's not fun. But seeing the Labrador going crazy, that must have been rather hilarious to see happen because, this is a big dog. But as soon as the dryer goes on or as soon as the washer goes on, he goes crazy. We don't know why, but it happens. So that's the humor of the situation. You can see the humor afterwards. You don't see it at the moment, but afterwards you realize, it was actually a funny situation seeing this great big huge Labrador, at least in my mind. And anyway, so what I'm saying today is simply this. You and I can get real strength, and real strength comes from experience, both negative and positive, and making a decision that you're going to walk in peace. You're doing it quietly, you're doing it deliberately, you're choosing peace over chaos every single time. That's my exhortation for you today. Let me pray. Father, no matter what we find in our situation, Help us to recognize that, Lord, you can give us peace in every situation and humor as well. Let us see the joy and also as well the peace in every situation. It doesn't mean that all things are good, but it does mean that all things will work together for good when we put our trust in you and in ourselves. And help us to recognize that experience is a great teacher. And experience can only happen when we have to go through things. One person put it this way: every expert started off as a rookie or as someone who didn't know what they're doing. But over time, they became good at whatever it was that they did. So thank you for that today. And thank you for the message that real strength comes when we choose to walk in peace, when we choose to walk in love, and we choose to live our lives with a quiet strength. That is what we need every day. And you are the one who gives it to us. And we receive it now in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, again, my name is Robert Dean Steele. If you like what you've been hearing and seeing, I encourage you to press the like button. And I can see that some of you have done that. So thank you for doing that as well. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. You see, I thank you, every single one of you who has taken time to, of course, check out my videos. Now, I do encourage you to check out my YouTube shorts. Every day, I put on a series of videos that are just 1 minute or thereabouts, sometimes as little as 15 or 20 seconds, but they're designed to be at that time a simple thought, an encouraging thought, an encouraging teaching, an encouraging snapshot, something that you can hang on to and will give you a different perspective every day. I hope that they're illuminational, educational, and revelational as well. So check those out as well. My name is Robert Dean Steele. Thank you so much for joining me today. And who knows what today is going to bring. I know that this morning I have to go and see if I can get my truck started. We'll see what happens. You have yourself a great and godly day. And we'll see you next time